The forest was quiet, the air heavy with the scent of damp earth and strange flowers that bloomed only at night. The hunter moved carefully, her steps silent, her breath steady. She was trained for this. Since her youth, she had been told that humans were prey, fragile and simple, wandering too far into lands they did not belong, and tonight she would prove her worth by catching one. But as she followed the trail, broken branches, light footprints, ashes from an old fire, she began to feel something she had never felt before. Distance. Not distance in steps or miles, but distance in her heart. She thought of her family, her people, and the lessons they gave her. She thought of the human she chased, who walked alone, separated from his own kind. That loneliness felt too familiar. The hunter pressed on. Her name was Lyra, and her people valued strength. Yet strength, she realized, often came with silence. No one asked how she felt, only whether she succeeded. She remembered the warmth of her closest friend, gone now, moved far away to another tribe across the mountains. Since then, she had walked in shadow, her pride covering a wound she never spoke of. Now, chasing this human, she wondered if she was really hunting him, or chasing the distance she felt inside herself. The trail grew clearer. She heard the crackle of fire. Her hand tightened on her weapon. She imagined bursting into the clearing, striking quickly, proving that humans were weak. But as she drew closer, she stopped. There he was. The human sat by a campfire, calm and steady, as though he had been expecting her. Sparks lifted into the night sky and the smell of cooked food drifted toward her. The man's face was lit by firelight, not sharp with fear, but soft with peace. And in his hands, he held not a weapon, but a pot, stirring dinner, for her. Lyra froze. She had prepared herself for a chase, for cries, for resistance. Instead, he looked up and met her eyes. He smiled, a gentle smile that carried no fear. "Hungry?" he asked. The question cut deeper than any blade. Lyra stepped out of the shadows, weapon still in hand, but her grip loosened. She wanted to ask how he knew she was following. She wanted to ask why he did not fear her. Instead, all she felt was a strange ache in her chest, the same ache she felt every night when she thought of her lost friend far away. "Why?" she whispered. "Because no one should eat alone," the human replied. The words seemed so simple, yet they shook her. For all her strength, for all her pride, she had eaten alone too many nights. The fire crackled warm against the cold forest air, and for the first time in years she felt invited. Still, doubt tugged at her. "I was sent to hunt you." He stirred the pot, unbothered. "And yet, here we are. Maybe you were not hunting me. Maybe you were hunting this." He gestured to the fire, the food, the circle of light in the dark. A place to belong. Lyra's throat tightened. She thought of her people, who measured worth only in victories. She thought of her friend now far away, who once told her that strength without kindness was hollow. She thought of herself standing in the shadows, always distant, always hiding the weight she carried. And now, a human, her supposed prey, was he offering her what she had long missed, company. She sat down slowly, setting her weapon aside. The fire's warmth wrapped around her. He passed her a bowl, simple food, yet it smelled richer than any feast she had known. She tasted it. It was not just food, it was care, prepared with thought, shared without fear. The silence between them was not heavy but gentle. She found herself watching the fire, listening to its crackle and breathing more easily than she had in years. "Why do you not fear me?" she asked at last. The human shrugged lightly. "Fear builds walls, fires build bridges, and I would rather share a meal than build another wall." She looked at him, really looked at him. He was not strong in the way her people measured strength, but there was something else in him, something she could not name, but could feel. A strength that did not come from muscle or weapon but from spirit. Humans, she realized, were not prey. They were something more. The thought frightened her. It thrilled her. It made her wonder what else she had been wrong about. The night deepened, and the forest seemed to lean closer around the circle of firelight. Lyra felt the distance in her heart shrink just a little. The ache of loneliness eased. For one night she was not a hunter, not a warrior, not a proof of strength. She was simply someone who was no longer alone. When the meal was finished, the human leaned back and gazed at the stars. His eyes reflected light in a way that made them seem endless. Lyra followed his gaze, and for the first time, the sky did not feel so far away. In that moment, she understood something her people had never taught her. Humans were not fragile because they lived alone, far from their own kind. They were strong because they carried hope into every place they walked, even into the heart of the forest, even into the company of their hunters. She thought she was hunting the human only to find him sitting at a campfire making dinner for her. And for the first time in years, she smiled. Lyra sat by the fire, her eyes fixed on the flickering flames. The human sat across from her, quietly cleaning the pot he had used to cook their meal. The silence between them was not sharp, but soft, like the steady breath of night. Yet inside Lyra's chest, there was a storm. She thought she had been hunting him. She thought she had come here to prove her worth. But the moment she sat down by his fire, she felt something deeper, something she had not allowed herself to feel in a long time. Distance, not the kind measured in steps, but the kind that stretches between hearts. She remembered her closest friend, a warrior named Salen, who had moved away seasons ago to join another tribe. Salen had always been her light in dark times. They trained together, laughed together, even dreamed of making their people stronger. But when Salen left, Lyra had not said what she truly felt. She had acted proud, pretending the distance would not matter, but it did. Every night since, she felt that emptiness. And now, as she sat by the human's fire, the memory rose again like a wound that had never healed. The human noticed her quiet. "You look far away," he said gently. She glanced at him, her lips tightening. "I feel far away." He nodded as if he understood. "Someone you miss?" The words struck her like an arrow. How could he know? She had not spoken of Salen in so long. Yet the human seemed to read it in her face, in her silence, as though he could see the distance inside her. Lyra swallowed hard. "Yes, someone I cared for, someone who moved away." The human leaned forward, resting his arms on his knees. "It hurts, doesn't it, to feel close to someone, and then lose that closeness when they are far?" She looked at him sharply. "Do humans feel that too?" He smiled softly, though his eyes carried weight. "More than anything, we are not the strongest creatures nor the fastest, but we are creatures of connection. When those bonds stretch too far, we feel it deep inside, and sometimes we don't know how to fix it." His words mirrored her thoughts. Lyra felt the ache rise in her chest again, but she didn't push it away this time. She let herself feel it. "I do not know how to reconnect," she admitted. "I want to, but I do not know how. My pride held me back before. Now, it feels too late." The human poked at the fire with a stick, watching sparks float into the air. "It's never too late," he said. "Distance is not the end. Sometimes all it takes is a step, a word, a letter, even just a fire waiting for them when they return." Lyra tilted her head. "A fire?" He gestured at the flames. "When you light a fire, you send a signal. Warmth, safety, welcome. People far away can see it, smell it, feel it. A fire tells them they can come home. In the same way, when you show care, when you keep your heart open, the people you miss can still find their way back to you." The idea stirred her spirit. She had always been told strength meant victory in battle, pride in silence, never showing weakness. But this human spoke of strength as something else, something gentler, yet brighter. Hope. Her chest tightened again, but this time with longing, not just pain. "What if they do not return?" she asked softly. The human looked up at the sky. The stars glimmered above them, cold and far. Then the fire still burns. Because even if they never come back, you will know you tried. You will know you reached out, that you chose connection instead of silence. That is what makes us human. Lyra studied him. His words carried a weight her people never spoke of. It was not weakness. It was courage of another kind. The courage to hope, even when distance seemed endless. She thought of Ceylon. She thought of the long silence between them, the pride that had built a wall. Maybe she thought it was not too late to send a signal. Maybe she could write, or travel, or simply whisper into the night sky where the stars carried voices farther than footsteps ever could. The thought gave her strength. You humans, she murmured. You are not prey. You are fire in the dark. He chuckled lightly. And you, Lyra, are not just a hunter. You're someone who wants more than victory. You want connection. That makes you strong. The word struck her harder than any weapon. For the first time in years, she felt seen. Truly seen. The night stretched on, and though the fire grew smaller, the warmth in her heart grew larger. She shared small stories of her tribe, of the stars, of the battles she fought. He shared tales of his people, how they crossed oceans, built homes in strange lands, and never stopped reaching for one another. Each story was a spark. Together they built a light that kept the distance at bay. When dawn touched the horizon, Lyra felt something she had not felt since Ceylon left. She felt hope. The human stood, stretching his arms. You should rest, he said kindly. The path is long ahead. But remember, when you feel far away, you can always light a fire. Someone might be waiting for it. Lyra rose too, her weapon at her side. But it felt lighter now. She looked at him, this strange human who was supposed to be prey but instead became a mirror of her own heart. I thought I was hunting you, she said softly. He smiled. And instead, you found dinner and a fire. Lyra nodded. Her lips curved into the smallest smile. Yes. She thought she was hunting the human, only to find him sitting at a campfire, making dinner for her, and perhaps, just perhaps, helping her find the courage to reconnect with the one she had lost. The forest grew brighter as dawn painted the trees with soft gold. Lyra stood by the dying fire, her eyes heavy with thought. The human had already begun packing his few belongings, moving with calm hands, as if the night had not changed everything. But for Lyra, it had. She still remembered her people's words. Humans are weak. Humans are prey. And yet, she had sat with one. She had eaten his food. She had listened to his wisdom. Now, as the morning stretched before her, doubt crept in. She thought of Ceylon again, her closest friend who had moved away, to another tribe. They used to laugh while training, dream of becoming champions together. But when Ceylon left, Lyra said nothing. She hid her sadness behind pride, too afraid to admit she cared. Now the silence had grown into a wall. Every night she wondered if Ceylon thought of her. Every morning she wondered if she should reach out, but she never did. She didn't know how. And here was a human, someone she was supposed to hunt, teaching her that distance could be crossed, if only she dared. Your eyes are heavy, the human said, breaking her thoughts. Lyra blinked. I was thinking. About the one who moved away? He asked, gently. She felt her chest tighten. How could he see through her so easily? She nodded. Yes, about Ceylon. The human strapped his small pack onto his back. You care for them? Still. I do, she whispered. But I do not know how to find the path back. It feels like I already lost them. He looked at her steadily, his gaze calm like the forest. You haven't lost them, not if they still live in your heart. Distance doesn't erase care, it only tests it. Lyra's throat ached. She wanted to believe his words, but fear still pressed down on her. What if Ceylon had forgotten her? What if reaching out would only prove she no longer mattered? She crossed her arms, holding herself tightly. What if I try, and they turn away? The human smiled softly. Then you will know you tried. And that is better than living with silence. Humans fail, stumble, break, but we keep reaching out. Because connection is worth the risk. His words lingered like embers. For the rest of the morning, they walked together through the trees. Lyra found herself noticing small things she had never cared for before. The way sunlight touched the leaves, the way birds called to each other. Across distance, always answered by another song. Even the forest seemed to prove his point. Nothing truly lived alone. By midday, they reached a ridge where the land stretched wide below. Villages dotted the valley, smoke rising from fires, signals of life. Lyra paused, staring at the far horizon. Somewhere beyond those hills, Selan lived. Somewhere, her friend laughed with others, trained with others, maybe even thought of her. The ache grew sharper. The human sat on a rock, pulling out a small piece of bread. He offered half to her. You could go to them, he said simply. Her chest tightened. I cannot. My tribe would see it as weakness. They would mock me if I left to chase someone who chose to leave. The human chewed quietly, then answered, or they would see courage. Because courage is not only facing enemies. Sometimes it is facing the fear inside you, the fear of rejection, of being forgotten. To take that step is harder than any battle. Lyra stared at him. His words cut deep because she knew they were true. She had fought many battles, but never the one inside her heart. Her hands clenched at her sides. I am strong in body, she admitted, but weak in this. The human looked at her kindly. No, you are strong because you feel it. Only the brave allow themselves to feel distance and still hope to bridge it. That is what makes you more than a hunter. The words warmed her more than the sun. For a long time she stood silently, staring at the horizon. She imagined Selan there, training with her new tribe. She imagined walking up, speaking her heart at last. Would Selan laugh? Would she turn away? Or would she smile, glad that Lyra had come? The possibilities burned inside her. Fear whispered, but hope whispered louder. At last, she sat beside the human. Tell me, she asked softly, have you ever lost someone who moved away? His face grew quiet. He nodded. Yes, many. Some I never saw again. But I always kept a fire in my heart for them. And sometimes, they found their way back. Lyra closed her eyes. She saw the image of the campfire from the night before, glowing, in the darkness, waiting, welcoming. Maybe she too could be that fire, for Selan, for herself. When she opened her eyes, the valley seemed less far. The human smiled at her, as if reading her thoughts. One day you will see them again. And when you do, your words will matter more than you think. Lyra nodded slowly. She still felt the weight of doubt, but now it was balanced by something else. Hope. The day passed as they continued walking together. They spoke little, but the silence was no longer lonely. Each step carried her closer, not only to the horizon but to the choice she knew she must make. When night came again, they lit another fire. The flames rose, and Lyra stared into them, remembering the words he had spoken. A fire is a signal. A place to belong. She thought of Selan, she thought of herself. She thought of the bond she had almost lost but could still rebuild. And as the stars returned above, she whispered into the night, I will find the courage. I will light the fire. The human, stirring their meal, looked up at her and smiled. Once, again, she thought she was hunting the human, only to find him sitting at a campfire making dinner for her. But this time, she knew the truth. He was also helping her find the way back to the one she had lost. The fire burned low that night. Lyra sat with her knees drawn close, staring into the embers. The human sat across from her, slowly sharpening a small knife, the quiet scrape of metal against stone steady and calm. But Lyra's mind was restless. For days now she had walked beside him, She had listened to his words, eaten his food, and felt a strange warmth she hadn't known in years, yet the ache inside her would not fade. Salen still filled her thoughts. Her friend had moved away far beyond the horizon, and Lyra still carried the weight of unspoken words. The human's advice had been simple: light a fire, be a signal, reach out, but her heart battled against her pride. "Why do you believe this so strongly?" she asked suddenly. The human glanced up. "Believe what?" "That distance can be crossed, that connection can return." Her voice trembled with frustration. "In my world, when someone moves away, they are gone. If you try to follow, people see it as weakness. They say strength is in letting go, not chasing." The human set his knife aside. His expression was calm, but his eyes shone with something firm. "And what has that belief given you?" Lyra stiffened. The answer came too quickly. Loneliness. Silence. Nights staring at stars, wondering if Salen still thought of her. But pride kept her from saying it. "It keeps me strong," she said instead. The human shook his head gently. "No, it keeps you empty." Her chest flared with anger. "You know nothing of my people. We cannot live by your soft human ways. If we reach for those who left, we show weakness, and weakness kills." The fire popped, sending sparks into the air. For a moment, neither spoke. Then the human leaned forward, his voice low but steady. "Weakness is not reaching out. Weakness is letting fear rule you. Humans are not strong in body, not compared to others. But we survive because we keep reaching, even when it hurts. We stumble, we fail, but we never stop trying. That is not weakness, that is hope." Lyra's heart pounded. His words felt like an attack, but also like a mirror. Deep down, she knew he was right. She was not proud because she was strong. She was proud because she was afraid. Afraid that Selen had forgotten her. Afraid her words would be too late. But the human's voice carried no fear, only certainty. "You feel distant," he said softly. "You carry sadness. You want to reconnect. That is not a shame. It is a gift. To care is strength." Lyra clenched her fists. "And if I try? If I go to Ceylon and she turns me away? What then?" The human smile was small but sure. "Then you will know you were brave enough to try. And you will still have the fire inside you. You will still carry hope. That is what it means to be alive." Her breath shook. She wanted to argue. She wanted to hold on to the pride that had shielded her for so long. But the firelight danced across his face, and his calm gaze broke down her walls. She remembered Salen's laugh, Salen's hand on her shoulder during training, Salen's voice saying, "We will be great together." And then the silence when Salen left, and the silence after, stretching year after year. The truth burned through her. She missed her friend more than she feared rejection. Tears stung her eyes, but she blinked them away quickly. Her people would never accept tears as strength. But the human didn't mock her. He only sat quietly, waiting, letting her breathe. At last, her voice cracked. "I want to see her again. I want to tell her that I still care, but I do not know how to begin." The human's eyes softened. "You already began. The moment you admitted it." Lyra's chest loosened. She exhaled shakily, as though she had been holding her breath for years. The human picked up a stick and drew a small circle in the dirt. "When humans feel far from each other, we build bridges, sometimes with words, sometimes with letters, sometimes with journeys. It doesn't matter how far, what matters is taking the first step." Lyra stared at the circle. A bridge, a path across distance. Her people had never taught her such things. To them, strength meant walls. But here was a human, supposed to be prey, showing her that true strength was in building bridges. She touched the dirt circle with her fingertip. "A step," she whispered. "Yes," he said. "A step. That's all it takes." Silence fell again, but this time it was not heavy. It was the quiet of seeds being planted, of thoughts taking root. The fire burned lower, but its warmth lingered. And within her another fire began to grow, a fire of hope. Later, when they lay down to rest, Lyra looked at the human, who had already closed his eyes. He looked fragile, smaller than her, weaker in body. And yet, she realized, he was stronger than anyone she had known, not because of muscle or weapon, but because of his spirit. Humans carried fire in their hearts, fire that reached across distance, across fear, across silence, fire that turned weakness into courage. She thought she was hunting the human, only to find him sitting at a campfire, making dinner for her, and teaching her that hope was stronger than pride. The night wind carried strange sounds. Leaves rustled and low growls echoed through the trees. Lyra's sharp ears caught the noise long before the human noticed. She stood quickly, her hand on her weapon. Something is near. The human looked up from the fire, calm as always. What kind of something? Hunters of the night, she answered, her eyes scanning the shadows. They follow blood and firelight. They will come for us. The human did not rise in fear. He only nodded. Then we will stand together. Lyra frowned. You should flee. You are not strong enough for this fight. He met her gaze steadily. And leave you to fight alone? No, humans do not abandon their friends. The word struck her. Friends. She had not been called that in so long. It pulled at the ache in her heart, the ache she carried since Ceylon moved away. She felt the distance again, sharp as a blade. But this time, it gave her strength. She did not want to feel it forever. The growls grew closer. Dark shapes moved between the trees, glowing eyes circling the firelight. Lyra tightened her grip on her weapon, her muscles tense. She had fought these beasts before, but never with a human at her side. Stay behind me, she ordered, but the human shook his head. We stand side by side. The beasts leapt into the clearing, teeth flashing. Lyra swung her blade with fierce precision, cutting through one attacker. Another lunged toward the human and her heart stopped, yet he moved with surprising speed. He lifted a burning branch from the fire and swung it wide, forcing the beast back. Lyra's eyes widened. He was not the strongest fighter, but he was brave, braver than many warriors she knew. Keep the fire high, she shouted. Together they fought. She struck with her blade, swift and sure. He wielded the fire, keeping the beasts at bay, driving them back with flame and courage. Their movements grew in rhythm, her strength and his spirit joining as one. At last the beasts fled into the shadows, their growls fading into the distance. Silence returned, broken only by the crackle of fire. Lyra's chest heaved with breath. She lowered her weapon slowly, her eyes fixed on the human. He was sweating, his hands shaking slightly, but he still held the burning branch, ready to fight again if needed. You did not run, she said softly. He gave a tired smile. I told you, humans don't abandon friends. The words pierced her heart. She thought of Ceylon again, her closest friend, the one who moved away. Had she abandoned Ceylon by staying silent all these years? Or had Ceylon abandoned her? The truth was harder. They had both let distance win. But tonight showed her something different. Distance could be fought, not with blades but with courage. She sheathed her weapon and sat heavily by the fire. The human set down the burning branch and joined her, his breathing slowly steadying. You risked your life, she said quietly. He shrugged lightly. That's what we do. Humans are small compared to many creatures, but we survive because we protect each other. Alone, we fall. Together, we rise. Lyra stared into the fire. His words echoed in her heart. Alone, we fall. Together, we rise. That was the lesson she had been missing. She had let pride keep her alone, when what she needed was courage to reach for another. For years, she told herself Ceylon had left her behind. But now she wondered, had Ceylon simply been waiting for her to take the first step? To light the fire. Her chest ached with both sadness and hope. You humans, she murmured. You carry fire not only in your hands, but in your hearts. He smiled gently. And so can you. Anyone can. The fire is not ours alone. It belongs to all who dare to hope. The words settled deep inside her. She had spent so long believing strength meant silence, believing pride would shield her from pain. But pride had only built walls. Now, with a human at her side, she saw another way. A bridge made of fire, made of hope. That night, as the fire burned low and safety returned, Lyra whispered into the darkness, "Selen, if you can hear me across the distance, know this. I did not forget you. I still carry you in my heart." The human, half asleep, stirred slightly. "What did you say?" "Nothing," she replied softly, but her lips curved in the faintest smile. She thought she was hunting the human, only to find him sitting at a campfire making dinner for her. And now, fighting beside him, she discovered something even greater: the courage to bridge the distance to the one she missed most. The forest was quiet after the battle. The ashes of the fire glowed faintly, and the smell of smoke lingered in the cool night air. Lyra sat beside the human, her muscles aching, her heart even heavier than her body. The fight with the beasts had ended, but another battle still raged, inside her, the battle between pride and longing. For so long she had told herself she was strong because she could endure distance. She had convinced herself that silence was strength, that forgetting Selen was the only way forward. But the human's words and his bravery at the fire had cracked those lies open. Now she could not escape the truth. She missed Selen more than she could bear. The human stirred the coals, feeding them small sticks so the fire would last until morning. "You are quiet again," he said gently. Lyra lowered her head. "I am thinking of Selen." He looked at her with patient eyes. "You wish to see her again?" "Yes," she admitted, her voice low. "But I do not know how." "I do. Not know what to say if I do." The human poked at the embers. "You will say what is true, that you care, that you miss her, that the distance has not broken the bond." Her throat tightened. "But what if she does not care anymore? What if she has forgotten me?" He leaned back, gazing at the stars above. "Then at least you will know you reached across the distance, that you chose hope instead of silence. That is strength, Lyra, not weakness." She turned his words over in her mind. Strength as hope, strength as honesty, strength as connection. Her people had never spoken of such things, yet, sitting here with a human, they made sense. Her chest ached as memories returned. Selen's laughter, their training together, the night they had promised to never let distance win. Lyra had broken that promise by staying silent, but promises could be mended if she had the courage to try. She clenched her fists. "I am afraid." The human smiled softly. "So am I. Every time I reach out to someone far away, I fear rejection. But fear does not stop me. Fear only means the connection matters." His words glowed like the firelight, steady and warm. They spent the night in silence, not the heavy silence of distance, but the calm silence of shared company. And when dawn came, the sun painting the sky with gold, Lyra rose to her feet. She looked at the horizon. Beyond those hills, Selen lived. Beyond those hills, her choice waited. "I will go," she whispered. The human nodded, as though he had been waiting for those words. "Then you have already won your hardest battle." Lyra's throat tightened. "But will she welcome me? Will she forgive me for my silence?" "That is not for you to decide," he answered. "But she will hear your heart, and hearts speak louder than pride." For the first time in years, Lyra felt the weight on her chest grow lighter. She was afraid still, but beneath the fear was something brighter. Hope. They began walking together again, moving through the forest toward the distant horizon. Along the way, Lyra asked him more about his people. He told her stories of humans, crossing deserts, oceans, and even stars, not because they were strong, but because they never gave up on each other. Every story burned brighter inside her. Humans, she realized, were not prey at all. They were the fire that refused to die. By midday, they reached a wide river. The water rushed strong and cold, and the path across was not easy. Lyra hesitated at the edge, her pride whispering, "Turn back." This journey is foolish, but the human stepped forward, steady and fearless. "Every river can be crossed," he said. "One step at a time,